Assalamu alaikum, my dear brothers and sisters. The previous program, I made a mistake. I hit the wrong button and I erased it by accident. So I put in a new one, and I'm hoping those future catch it and realize that I had made a mistake here, and I put a new marquee, which you see the book. And so please forgive me for that. So things happen, things happen. Assalamu alaikum, my dear sister Amina. Okay, all right. Okay, we get started here and hoping others will show up in here in the future, inshallah ta'ala. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Aqibatun mustaqim. Wa Allah yuhibbu muqsinin. Wa Allah yukharihu mujrimin. Innahu Rabbi Alameen Ghafur Rahim. Muhammadan huwa Sayyidina wa Makbubana. Innahu kana Rasulun Nabiyan. Salawatu Allah Ta'ala wa salamuhu alayhi. Innani Altay Subhanahu wa Ta'ala ala kitabila wa sunnati rasuli bayati. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Halan wa salim bikum. Salamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Lil ikhwani wa akhwati fi deen. Wa salamu ala mani taba'a huda. Ikhwani wa akhwati fi Africa wa Europa, Asia wa America wa kulli makan. My dear brothers and sisters, I will finish up today on the Nawaqid number 8, and as you recall, this is a very harsh nullifier of the Muslims' Islam, and a lot of, as I explained earlier in previous episodes of this, we're getting close to the end. We have 2 more nullifiers after this. This nullifier here is very troubling because it deals with the Muslims who offer its support. And the Bab, it says, backing or supporting the polytheists and aiding them against the Muslims. And the evidence of this, of course, is the Surah Ma'idah, which is Surah 5 and verse 51, where Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says that since you are among them, meaning, again, the fourth category of disbelievers, which is remember the Harbi, the ones who make war, who legislate against the Muslims, and so forth, and you join their militaries, the Salibiyin, remember the Crusaders, this type, and you go among them. Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says you are among them and you have apostated out. So that's the backdrop of this particular bab, which is number 8. And you remember I went through a whole series of evidences talking about this particular bab. It's a serious one. And unfortunately, we have too many Muslims today involved with these particular individuals. And again, let me preface this by saying this is not talking about our brothers and sisters who live in America or Europe or Canada and Western countries, Asia somewhere, and they have to go work among the disbelievers. We're not talking about those people like that. We're talking about those who are working against the Muslimin, or those who legislate against the Muslimin or talk against the Muslimin, just the ones we're talking about here. And the last time I covered a lot of areas, but I'm going to cover the second part of this meaning of this particular bab, because it also deals with other issues too about the modern Muslim. And it's not only joining the military of the disbelievers. It's not only that. There's other facets in here too, that the Sheikh Islam, the consensus that apostate you from the religion. And let me read this off to you so you can get an understanding what the Sheikh Islams from every era, plus the ulama fuqaha who have concurred with this also. And this is what they have said, adding to the bab. The meaning of helping the kuffar, infidels, against the Muslims is to be their aid against Muslims by joining them. Remember, we talked about that in the verse 51. And defending them by every means, words, writing, articles, physical protection, etc. See, now we get into another part of this. If you go and you defend them, like it happens, even in my situation, I've had these type of situations here where I had my brothers who are supposed to be Muslims come to me to defend the Salibiyin, to defend them and give good word about them. They've apostated. They've apostated because they are fighting Muslims. They come to Muslim countries to fight the Muslims. They're not here in Morocco or Algeria or Egypt or Sudan to supplement our Islam, to make it stronger. They're here to destroy it, to make it quote unquote modern. But the evidence is that they want to destroy it. And so here, the Sheikh Islams have said, defending, again, the number fourth category of disbelievers, defending them by every means, words, writing articles to defend them. Okay, here, lost my page here. Okay, writing articles, physical protection, meaning like some of those who fought me in the past, they were ready to go to war. They were ready to kill in order on the word of this disbeliever who is a kafir, who doesn't like subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's here only to fight the Muslims. And they took money from him and they go to defend this man. They're ready to kill for this tubab. He's apostate, etc. Helping the kuffar against the Muslims can be done by protecting them, defending them, loving their Aqidah. Yes. Now we get into something, aren't we? We have many Muslims today who swear by the Aqidah of the disbelievers, the Francine, the American, English, the France, the Americans, the Canadian, that their ways and means are far better than the Muslims. And they adopt this falsehood. And they even will not even talk against their misguidance, which subhanahu wa ta'ala says you should avoid it. Again, we're not talking about our dear friends and family who we love, and we dearly love them. And we've been knowing them for a long period of time. They're not talking about this situation, but I'm going to get to another verse in the Quran that should wake you up in this matter. And this gives you food of thought, what subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to think about. But we're talking about loving them. Now, say my good friends, they're like my brothers and sisters back in Compton. And say they come to me with their Aqidah, which I know because they're Christians. And then they begin to talk to me about it. And I begin to defend it and say, yes, it's good. I like it. Assalamu alaikum, my dear sister Abina. Thank you for showing up, my dear sister. And say I begin to like their Aqidah and I go to make references to it and defend it. This is what they're talking about here, where this Aqidah is false in the eyes of subhanahu wa ta'ala, and our doctrine is false. This is what they're saying here. Now we get to another part. This is what is happening today with the Muslims. Here's another condition of apostasy: imitating them. Muslims imitating Jews, Christians, Hindus, Shintoism, Taoism, this type of thing. This is what the scholars have said. Intimidating them, okay? Imitating them, not intimidating, imitating them, acting like them in their religion and customs. This is prevalent everywhere. It's to the point, even in Muslim lands, we have those who govern us in some of the lands, not all. And there are people who make sure that you are not Muslim except on Fridays. And they try to defend this. They'll tell you to remove your beard. They'll tell you to remove even your Islamic clothing. They'll tell you to not even talk Islamically. Yes, you can go pray, but even in some of these countries, they have stopped the Muslims from even praying in the masjid, except certain times of the day. But early in the morning, the Fajr prayer stuff, they will stop them. All in an effort to what? To imitate the kuffar. And who are mainly we talking about? The Tubab. To imitate them. They say, no, Monday through Thursday, you are them. You act like them. You dress like them. You have you adopt their haircuts. You adopt their ways of being. This is what they're talking about here. And you go to adopt their customs. And then when the people who go to work with them come to you and say, yeah, no. Hey, you wrong, man. You're a terrorist unless you remove your beard. You're a terrorist if you go to Salat 4 days, every single day. But Friday, we'll let you go to make prayer. That's okay. And if you want that day, you can dress like a Muslim. But then when Saturday comes, you go back to acting like a Frenchman, or you act like a Russian, or you act like an American. This is what is happening in Muslim lands. And here's a sad epitaph. Our Prophet, alayhi salatu salam, gave us indication of this by saying in a sorrowful hadith, when he told his companions, he said, it will come a day that the Muslims will imitate the Jews and the Christians. Sadaqa Rasulillah, alayhi salatu salam. He hit it on the mark. What he said is true. Today, Muslims are imitating the disbelievers. Now, let's go back to something. We got to again clear this up. You live in LA. You working in McDonald's. You working in Walmart. You can't come looking like me. We know that. You can't come dressed in a tobe, with a long beard and turban, and you walk in there. We're not talking about those situations like that, those who live in the West. We're not talking about that. We're talking about when you are not under the gun to do this. And say you go home. But we have hadiths too, where a prophet said that if you in the lands, you should try to adapt the best to your ability and dress in manner, meaning so you don't stick out, not meaning to act like them, but to not to stick out. Because you think about it, I'm walking down the street looking like this, I would attract a lot of attention. And some of it would be probably negative, considering the racism that's and the racist Tubab they're now killing without any regard. That I might just spark something. So the prophet said you're supposed to adapt. Now, here's the problem I have to add to this. When you dress as they dress, what happens when you go to the salat? And you go to the masjid? You got tight-fitting clothes. Your prayer is disaffected because when you bend over as a man or you bend over as a woman, your aura, okay, is exposed. Not fully, but enough to see the imprint. That is haram in Islam. That nullifies your salat. So the brothers in particular, you go to dress in those tight jeans and shirts like the kuffar do, and you step inside the masjid and you go make your prayer with those tight pants and the shirt is so tight that the minute you bend over, half of your stomach is showing. Your prayer has been disaffected and probably will not be accepted because it's not in accordance to the sunnah. The sunnah, okay? So you have to be careful of that. And why I'm speaking of that, this issue here, it rubs because today the kuffar, the Tubab in particular, is after. You remember the four groups, even of the Muslims that they have made a list on. Remember the fundamentalists, remember the traditionalists, and then the secularists and the modernists. The third and the fourth, secularists and the modernists, they protect them. They empower them. They go and call them modern and moderate Muslims. They call them the best of the Muslims. They said, this is what we should imitate. Because why? They control them. Why? Because they look like them. Why? Because they act like them. Why? Because they talk against Islam in some ways, and then they're hypocrites. They say one thing, but then they do another thing. So they promote them. But the first two, the so-called fundamentalists, there's no such thing as fundamentalism. But in their eyes, when someone adopts the religion per the Quran, and he's a student of knowledge, and he's a stickler about the Sunnah, he calls him fundamentalist. Translation: terrorist. Even though he's not fired a shot, because he's adopted, because the Tubab does not want us as Muslims to worship as revealed by our Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't want us to do that. He wants us to adapt to what he says, because he has destroyed all of the religions, so he wants to destroy ours. And so this is something, my brothers and sisters, that is a serious allegation against us, and that we're following this. And so here you don't do that. You have a fine balancing act. You living in LA or Washington, D.C., you have to balance what subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking you, what our prophet's asking you, and what the Tubab is asking you, because you have to adapt. But that doesn't mean that you adapt their ways and means and you begin to act like them. And you show up in a masjid with tight jeans and a tight shirt showing your muscles, and you go to bend over in front of the brothers in your prayer. No good. It's haram, and your prayer is not accepted. Let's go on further in this with the more of what is apostating about the Muslims in this category. It says here, also helping them against the Muslims, even though the person dislikes their faith, is considered a kafir. Now he's still apostate, but he's a little lesser than that, because he doesn't like their religion. He doesn't back them. He doesn't, and he may not necessarily even act like them. You see that in Muslim lands. The Tubab will go to hire Muslims, but they, out of necessity, out of misguidance, they go and they say, you know what, this is easy money. These Tubab, you know what they want? They want me to go down the street and go after Yahya. They want me to look at Yahya. They want me to film Yahya. They want me to follow him to the masjid. Even though they don't like the kuffar, even though they don't like their ways and means and their religion and their ways and means, he doesn't, because he even made me pray. He doesn't even imitate them, but he takes their money. This is what they're talking about here. These ones here, they don't like the kuffar, but out of necessity, they go to them. Is it right? No. They should wait for subhanahu wa ta'ala to give them something better, because now you put yourself in a predicament of judgment, because you go to assist a person that subhanahu wa ta'ala hates, and he doesn't like them, and he's legislated against them in his book, and you go to assist them out of necessity. That's you run a risk, and you should be very careful. Okay, and now here is why they're so hard about this, and why they deem this apostasy. All of the above, the deviations that they talked about here of those assisting the kuffar, why are the sticklers of our ulama fuqaha are so harsh about this? It weakens the religion of Islam, the rising of kufr and leading false faith of the kuffar to overpower the Islamic Aqeedah. Listen to that, my brothers and sisters. Why the scholars of old and the modern day scholars today call this apostasy, because of, and they label this, and they say, why are we're hard on the Muslims who are doing this? Because it says it's weakening the religion of Islam, rising of kufr. You weaken it and you bring kufr into the community by your association and backing of the kuffar. Then leading a false faith. Look, modern Muslims today, when they come and tell you you don't have to pray, because why? They've been influenced by the Tubab. The Tubab telling them, look, this is what I want you to spread. So they go and tell you, yeah, you should pray only on Friday. False religion. That's not in the Sharia. That's not in the Sunnah. That's what they're talking about. Leading to a false faith. It is true. They're building a new Islam. And modern Muslims say this. The modern Muslims take what they want and then discard the rest, and then they add to it. And whoever you talk to, you can get 10 modern Muslims. Each one will have a different Aqidah. So which one are you supposed to follow? You understand what I'm talking about? This is what they're talking about here. It's leading to false faith, because these modern Muslims, each one will have its own Aqidah. And they will tell you, well, look, you follow me, you follow me. So which one are we supposed to follow? This is what they're talking about here. Leading the false faith of kuffar to overpower the Islamic Aqidah. And it's true. And they are doing it today as we speak, even in Muslim lands. They're overpowering our Aqidah. And I'll give you an example of that. Just here recently, I was listening to some brothers talk, and they were on YouTube. And I saw some things that they had written and whatnot. And they classified themselves as quote unquote modern Muslims. You know, they're not too fundamentally strong on Islam, but they're not really weak either. And so here they went and adopted a new type of ruling that they made among themselves without consulting the students of knowledge or the scholars to get a backing on this. This brother turned back around, leaving the United States. He went to invest in a Kafir country. Yes, there's Muslims there. Yes, but he went to invest in a Kafir country. It's prohibited for Muslims to do that unless he's there for dawah. It's different. Now, okay, he's took his money and he's building a masjid in LA. He's there to spread Islam. That's a different situation. Here, he's investing to put money in his pocket. He's investing to make hijrah to this Kafir country so he can live out his rest of his years. Because why? He's adopted a new quote unquote modern Islam. And he is against all of that. The Muslims, you know the ruling. The Muslims are to make hijrah to what? Dola Quran, Dola Iman, not Dola Kufar. Dola means nation of the Quran, where it's remembered, of faith. That's where you go. There's 57 countries. You can't tell me not one of them will not accept you. And you go to France to live. Again, as I told you many times in previous talks, it's different. When the 57 reject you or one of them threatens to kill you and France is going to give you haven, you take that. There's no fault in you. But when you have the luxury of picking what you want and you turn back around and you take your money and you go live among the kuffar. Yes, there's Muslims there, but you go invest in a Kafir state and you go and spend your money there. No. It's wrong. And I want him to come to prove to me that it's true what he said. He went to invest, even though this country is in Africa, it's still not a Muslim country. He can't do it. The Muslims can't even visit these countries unless they are invited, unless there's something Islamic. Because why? They want you to keep your faith. They want you to visit Muslim countries. But there's other conditions, and there's many classes about this. But I'm just giving you the broad essence of this. But these modern Muslims here, they're bragging. And I want to say something, but I didn't want to get into the program. I just said, okay, fine. I let it go. But if there's Muslims who came to this and saw this, it's wrong. And the Muslims, and especially the young Muslims and those who don't know, you can't, my brothers and sisters, you Muslims, you have 57 countries you can migrate to, okay? And you make your hijrah to. You want to retire. You retire in one of those 57 countries. But if they reject you, they can't accept you. Now you have no other choice because you can't live in America no more. You're a black man. I understand that. But you don't go to a Kafir country at the beginning. You didn't try Maghreb, where I'm living, Morocco. You didn't try Algeria. You didn't try Tunis or Egypt. You didn't try Sudan. You're a black man. Sudan, you fit in very well. I know that for a fact. Sudan is a black Arab state. You could went there and invest your money. There's a lot of good investment opportunities there. And if you're a single black man, it's a place, and everybody knows it's a place of beautiful women, sisters there, okay, all ranges in color. You can go there. It's a Muslim country. You can go to the Gambia, invest. It's a Muslim country. But he decides to go to a Kafir country in Africa and then try to authenticate it by saying it's okay. Where'd he get that from? No scholar told him that. No, it's wrong. So my dear brothers and sisters, you see the picture I'm getting at. These nullifiers are serious business, and you have to understand your dean. And they spoke here, and they gave, and I saved this for the last. Why? For the last talk about this particular helping the kuffar, because it's more than just joining their armies. You see what the scholars have said here, defending them, loving their Aqidah, imitating them, acting like them, getting their hairstyles, putting on their clothes. You see their logos here, especially you see in Arab states now, they put satanic writings. They don't even know that they're following a satanic group in the United States. And they have the satanic, these groups, what they call that? Acid, I forgot what they call it in my days. Acid rock, I forgot what they call that. And devil worship type stuff. And they put their names and like it's dripped in blood. You got Muslims doing that today and copying their hairstyles. This is what they're talking about here. And again, imitating them in their religion. We have that now. We have people who've adopted what? Christmas. They've adopted what? New Year's. They've adopted Easter, and they said they're Muslims. This is what they're talking about here. It's apostasy. It's apostasy, my brothers and sisters. It's apostasy. Stay away from it. Now, and last on this, and then I'm going to move to some of the other aspects. The scholars have spoken, and Subhanahu wa ta'ala has spoken. Our prophet has spoken. This type of, it's almost debauchery in some ways, is leading to false faith in our religion. And it's assisting the kuffar to overpower the Islamic Aqeedah, and Arabic Aqeedah Islamiyah. This is what they said. That all of what I just mentioned here is leading to a false religion and is empowering the kuffar, the Tubab in particular, to overpower our Islamic Aqeedah. So I gave you this part of it, of this segment of this talk, and I hope you ponder this. And don't be swayed by the modern Muslim. Don't be swayed by the Salibi or any other person who come to you to make you change and tell you that you should not act like a Muslim or act like a Muslim. Again, as prefaces, we have family who are Christians and Hebrews, okay? They join it. We have that. We have people who we know for many years, like my case, but we have a healthy separation. They don't fight my faith. And I can attest to that because I have my dear sister here, Abina, and we grew up, I've been knowing her since I was 5 years old. So she doesn't fight my faith. And so I've been knowing her since I was 5 years old. And so, and we talk about many different things about our childhood and whatnot, and people see, you understand, and she's not fighting me. And you say, oh, yeah, wait a minute, you're a hypocrite now. Whoa, wait a minute now. How can you have something to do with her because she's from Compton? Whoa, wait a minute. Let's go back to Subhanahu wa ta'ala is put a condition. Remember, Surah 60, verse what? 8. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says you can have what? And treat them reciprocal, talking about those disbelievers who do not fight you for your faith and drive you from their homes. See, so you always have to know the Quran, and you have to have some basis of the Sunnah. So you know your relationships with people who are not Muslims. You have to have a healthy relationship with them. They don't fight you, you can be cordial. That doesn't mean that you imitate. My dear sister can tell you about how I am, even when I was a boy. She can tell you, and I've been knowing her since I was 5 years old. And so this is a different situation. Now we're going to go to the other sections of this. I want you to pull out the verse 43 in the Quran, and excuse me, the surah is 43, and then the verse 67. This is what I was telling you about, something that you must consider. This is a serious verse that Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and the tafsir is even more frightening when you read it. Again, this is Surah 43, and the verse is 67. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, friends on that day will be foes one to another except the righteous. Let me repeat that. Friends on that day will be foes one to another except the righteous. Let's look at this. What are you talking about? We're talking about Yom Kippur. There's going to be examination. Those people like the kuffar, those salibiyin, those others that you imitate, that you've adopted their ways and means against the orders of Subhanahu wa ta'ala, will turn against you in Yom Kippur. This is what this means here. You see how serious this is, our brothers and sisters? That's why I say you must learn the Aqeedah. I heard some brothers talking again about some portions of this. They gave you some parts of this, but they didn't break down the Aqeedah the way it should be broken down, so they help you so you don't fall in these pitfalls. They talk generally about it. Nothing wrong with that. It's okay. But if you want to go deep into this, you should investigate this. This here is deep stuff. Deep meaning it goes deeper into the Aqeedah. We go into Tawheed, and we see what Subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking. And then we examine it with the authentic, what words of Subhanahu wa ta'ala from the verses of the Quran and from the authentic hadiths, right? Subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us here, friends on that day will be foes and one to another except the righteous. Meaning, in all retrospect, the Muslims who are, as ordered in the Quran, hang around with the believers, the mu'mineen, not the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, or the fasiqeen, the ones who are out making debauchery. No, he's talking about with believers. They will testify in your behalf because you are one. But when you have friends, especially those friends who are involved in debauchery, even though you know them, they're involved in debauchery, they're involved in drugs, they're involved, and you know it, they're gangsters, you know they're robbers, you know they're cheaters, you know they're, a variety of things, but yet they don't fight you, and you maintain friendships with them. This is what he's talking about here. That's right. Over here, John here will testify against you. Now, if those who can read Arabic, you should read here the tafsir of this. There's a conversation that happens between the friend and the Muslim, okay, on Yom Kippur. And here, there's something that's been asked. The Muslim is he's going to tell and testify, I was told by my friends and others that I should what? Disbelieve in you, talking about Subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in our prophet. The friend who's not a Muslim is asked a question. He says, I was told not to believe in you and this prophet. Okay, look at this. Yes, this is the conversation that's going to happen. And from that point, then the Muslim will go into the details of what he did in his worship. But the friend will not be able to do it, which will eliminate him, as it says in here, to the fire. The Muslim friend who is strong in his Aqeedah is on his journey, bi-ithnillah, with permission of Subhanahu wa ta'ala at the time, onto Jannah. You see this, my brothers and sisters? Let's go over this again. There's going to be conversation. And I'm only covering some of this. This is 6 pages. This is I got this in Arabic here. If anybody who reads Arabic and they want to real good to understanding this, because I'm translating this in English, and you read Arabic, I can give you the tafsir for it, or you can pull it up. Sheikh Al-Dim Rahim Allah, Sheikh Qurtubi, or beautiful scholar, way back. He gave a tafsir in this. It is absolutely astonishing. And again, the conversation between the so-called friend who's involved in many different things in his life, even though he befriended with the believer, but he was involved in many different things. He's going to testify against his brother who's a Muslim because of their relationship. That's right. And remember what Subhanahu wa ta'ala says in that verse. He says, friends on that day will be foes, one to another except the righteous. The righteous will testify for each other. The friends will not, because they'll be scrambling to save themselves. And you don't want to be lumped with them. Remember what Subhanahu wa ta'ala says. He says, if you are among them, you will be like them. Again, we're not talking about the people who don't fight us per se, but we don't know what they do in the hidden. We can't judge that. But it gives you food of thought. That's why these Muslims who's leaving the United States and they come into Muslim countries, they don't go around other Muslims. They go to seek out disbelievers to be friends with. They are running a big risk because those people who are there, and he knows that they're anti-Muslim, they're anti-Islam, they're even against Subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he maintained friendships with them. Those ladies, those men who he's associating with will testify against him. You don't want that. You don't want that, my brothers and sisters. You don't want that. Stay away from that. Near the end here, there's a conversation again. He tells the Muslim he says, I was ordered to, on the honor of making obeisances to you and to our prophet. This is the Muslim. Okay, now, here comes the disbeliever. He says here, he was not given this. He was not given this. He was ordered what? Not to be obeisances on Allah and to the messenger, but on what? Evil. Now, yes, because why? The evil. Because one, he's not worshiping right. He takes the white Jesus Christ and he goes and bows down to that. He has a statue of Isa alayhi salam in his house. He's white, and he wasn't a white man, but he's got it there. Two, he's adopted a false part of this, of the Christianity. I don't want to get into that, but I have to talk about some of this today. And he's adopted the part of the New Testament. The New Testament is fragrantly, I mean, it's flawed tremendously. Because you have to ask the questions, what is the white man who weren't even born at the time? How did they know what Jesus said? When they didn't speak Hebrew, they weren't even there. So how did they testify to that? Those are things Christians should ask themselves. And then they reversed the words of Subhanahu wa ta'ala in the New Testament. And on top of that, they forbade the Old Testament, which they supposed to, they swear to. You see the hypocrisy there. It can get you in trouble. And speaking of that, our dear Christians, I want to give you something why this segment of the Aqeedah is so important for us and for you. Because in this same surah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala has addressed you. You say you follow Jesus. Here's what he says here in verse 61. And Jesus shall be a sign for the coming of the hour of judgment. Therefore, have no doubt about the hour, but follow me. He's telling the Christians this. This is the straight way. This is Isa, Jesus, alayhi salatu salam, saying this to the Christians. Then 62, let not the evil one hinder you, for he is to you a vowed enemy. He's telling you, Christians, don't follow what? These people who take you from Isa. How many Christians actually follow Jesus? They don't follow him. They only follow by name. They follow what the Tubab has told them. This is what we're talking about here. This is going to lead you to the fire. Now, Subhanahu wa ta'ala has just codified this saying about Isa, who he loves dearly and who we as Muslims love dearly. We honor him, we respect him, and we love him. Here's what he says. When Jesus came, Christians, he says, when Jesus came with clear signs, he said, now have I come to you with wisdom? Did he come to Christians? Did he come? Yes, he did. And in order to make clear to you some of the points on which you dispute, the Christians begin to dispute. We've had the New Testament, we have the Old Testament, we have disputes between the Christians and Jews today. It's still lingering on as we speak. Even though Jesus said, I brought you clear signs. And he says here to make clear to you some points which you dispute. Therefore, fear Allah and obey me. This is a serious, serious allegation. This is for our Christian brothers and sisters. For you to now go back to your books and to rehash over what you actually believe about Christianity. Because here Subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving the proof. He's telling you what Jesus, Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, has said. So this is something that we should ponder, even the Muslims, because the Muslims are running away. I'm not getting on the Christians. This is not the Christian day where I'm getting on them. I'm not, people know me. I'm not doing that. I'm only speaking on the context of what happens about the Muslims. And so, and I'm bringing this because our Christian friends are close to us in religion. Remember, our Jewish, Hebrew brothers, Christians, and Muslims, we share many common bond. So Subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about them a lot. And so we have to be very careful about our relationships with one another and among the Christians. So I gave you something, again, for you to research, for the Christians to research, to look into this. It's serious business. And, you know, my Christian brothers and sisters, that you should go back now and revamp. What are you actually believing? You go back and look at that New Testament and you weigh it against the New Testament. When I took the classes on the Torah, and I had to learn some Hebrew as well, and I did. And I began to read the Torah. I began to see how much the modern day, quote unquote, Jews are away from the Torah tremendously. And then when we got into sections, we talked about the Christians. I found how far, even further removed, the Christians were from the Torah. And I was shocked what I read, and I was shocked what I had learned. There's some minor differences between Islam in regard as far as the Sharia, the law, because the Jewish, they have some things that are different here and there. We're not talking about the Talmud, because that was created in man. We're talking about the Torah was given by the prophets Solomon and so forth and so on. And so we must be very careful here. And this particular verse, we go back to verse 67 again. Friends on the day will be foes and one to another. We have the Christian in verse 61. And we talk about what Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. He's telling you, be careful. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling what Jesus was talking about. Be careful of the evil one, means shaitan. Second, then Jesus says, I came with clear signs. He's telling you Christians, I came, and Jews, I came with clear signs, didn't I? I came with wisdom, didn't I? And he gave you this wisdom. And basically, most of them rejected him. And he's still rejecting them today, and they follow something false. Because they don't follow his way. They follow something that the Tubab has created, especially since about 1507, they begin to change their religion tremendously. So that's something, my dear brothers and sisters, that you should ponder and be very careful. Now, for the Muslims, we go back to you. A part of this bab as well, we're going to go to Surah 85. Surah 85, yes. Excuse me. Yeah, 85. And the verse is 10. This, when you go, the Muslim, when you go to aid the disbelieving armies against the Muslims, and you harm your brother, This is part of here. This is part of this. Now, we're talking about verse 10. We're talking about Surah 85. Here's what Subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Those who persecute or draw into temptation the believers, men and women, and do not turn in repentance will have a penalty of hell. They will have the penalty of the burning fire. That's a warning to you, hypocrites. You Muslims who have apostated, who joined the armies of the kuffar against your brother, and you go to hurt them. Meaning, in many ways, you go spy. You're hurting him. You spy. Why are you spying on him? When you put devices in his house, you Muslim, you put devices in the house and you watch him and his wife in the bedroom. You hurting him. When that Muslim goes to take a shower, you watching him. When his wife goes to take the shower, you watch him. Yes, you hurting him. It's not just about shooting and dropping bomb on him. There's many aspects to this. When this Muslim goes and he's an old man, and you go and the kuffar tell you to go hurt him, he's an old man. He's walking out of the masjid and you go beat him for no reason, only on the command of the Salibi, who tells you to go to hurt this old man because he doesn't like him because he's a strong Muslim. You go to harm him. This is what here. You go into the fire unless you clean up. Subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you here, if you persecute them, talking about the Muslims, you Muslims who go to persecute other Muslims on behalf of the Salibi, like it says here, like it says here in this bab. Remember what the scholars have said. You go to what? To go to help out the disbelievers against the Muslims. And you go to fight them, and you go to hurt other Muslims. And it's not only fighting him, not only beating him, not dropping bombs on him, but spying on him. And I heard some of them even say, there's no prohibition. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not hurting Yahya when I put spying devices in his house. I'm not doing that to him. What did Subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you in Surah 49? He tells you don't spy on Muslims, doesn't he? So where are these guys getting it from? Because the Tubab came to them and said, hey, look, you know what? Oh, you doing this. This is big time. Now, we're not talking about the real law enforcement efforts of the Muslim who is killing and bombing, dropping bombs and blowing up McDonald's and stuff. You do what you have to do to protect the people. That's different. Here, 99.9% of strong Muslims, they're not doing this. So why are people spying on them? And why is the Tubab has deployed Muslims to spy? And they sit there, eat donuts, laughing and drinking while they spying on the houses of the Muslims. Not on the kuffar, not on the criminals who are selling drugs. No, even in their lands. They don't go after them. They only go after the believers. They spy on them. This is what they're talking about here. You're going to go to the fire unless you repent. Now, let's look at this. Let's look at something. The tafsir of this is harsh. On this particular surah and this verse 10, surah 85, Abarush. And here they're telling you straight out, you are a vehicle of shaitan because you're following shaitan because you go after Muslims. And you are a Muslim too. You are a vehicle and you follow after shaitan. Shaitan's giving you orders. Now he's training you to create a fitna among the Muslims because you're spying on him. You're spying on his wife. You're going after Muslims who go to the masjid. You go after Muslims who like to pray and you try to stop them from praying. You go after Muslims because they're strong in faith, and you try to tell him if he comes out, you're going to kill him. We have this happening. Look at Egypt now. Egypt is killing. They're killing scholars, strong Muslims, and they're not killing anybody. They're not hurting anybody. They're not advocating nothing. They're strong because the Tubab is behind them and ordered them to do it. They just killed one brother again. They just killed the other ones. You know what President Erdogan, what he had to say about Sisi, President Sisi, and what they did to Morsi. I don't even have to get into that. He was very upset. They're still going after the Muslims there in Egypt. And this is what they're talking about here. And here, the tafsir, they're talking about Shaitan is running these Muslims who do this. He's teaching them how to make fitna among the Muslims. He's teaching them to go after the Muslims. He's showing them how to do it. He goes to them and explains how you can spy on them, how you can go after them in the masjid, what you can do when you see them. And then you have this, you built up this hate to the point where you can kill him. And then when you come out of this, after you kill this old man who's 80 years old, who's walked to the masjid, and you go kill him. And then once you come out of it, Shaitan said, hey man, you did what I want, I'm gone. And now you're out of this, why did I go kill this old man? We seen this. Why did I beat this old man? For what reason? He didn't do anything to me and my family. Now they come out of this. This is why this stuff is serious, my brothers and sisters. Why you as Muslims should obey the Quran and the Sunnah. You learn your text. You learn the Sunnah. You pray often, on time, and don't listen to the hypocrites when they tell you don't pray. Don't follow that. You may end up like this. And we have Muslims today who following this particular verse, and you're leading yourself to the fire. They're justifying spying on Muslims. They justify hurting Muslims who go to the masjid. They justify Muslims who are in Islamic groups. They go here, they go there to study the Quran. They're sitting men there and they're eating they have their pastries there and they're discussing the Quran and then doing nothing. And they go to do something to them. We've seen this. Or they come out of their meeting after they had what they call jets of the Quran, meaning a meeting and they go to learn the Quran, they beat them when they come out of the house. And yet and still, right down the street here, they got drug dealers selling drugs. They don't touch them. They have a house there or someone put there, and they have robbers who go and steal telephones and computers, people's homes and stuff like that. Everybody knows who they are. Do they go after them? No. Do they go and threaten them? No. When they have their meetings there to get ready to go out in the city to steal, do they interdict them? No. But they go after the Muslims who are sitting inside their house, reading the Quran, and then when they come out, they go beat them. This is what I'm talking about. This is from the devil. This is not from Subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't tell you to do this. This is what we're talking about here. This is harsh talking, but we're talking correctly. And we have to talk harshly for people to understand their religion and to understand that these are nawaqits. These are nullifiers of your Islam. So, my brothers and sisters, you have to be very careful here. I'll be closing here. I'm going to give you some characteristics for you as the Muslim, and even for our Christian brothers and our Hebrew brothers and sisters, when you have friends who are Muslims and you know them, and you begin to even notice something not right with them. And here's some of the characteristics of this Muslim who's leaving the fold of Islam. You, even as a Jew, Christian, said, what happened to Yahya? I saw him change. He doesn't talk about Subhanahu wa ta'ala anymore. He's even stopped to pray. I see a lot of hypocrisy in him now. I didn't see this before. Here's some of the characteristics of this person who's getting ready to join with the disbelievers against his own people and his religion. He goes to find the kuffar, and he goes to join them he began to look for them. Okay. And he then began to believe that perhaps the way of the Frenchman, the way of the American is better than that of the Muslim. That's the first. All of a sudden you see Yahya going and you see him. He's starting to talk to people. They look like agents of some sort. They look like there's something, and you see him secretively acting and acting in a different way. You think that something's going on with him. This is what they're talking about here. They begin to seek them out. Second, you know about them because why? They judge from the way the kuffar judges the black man and all melanated people. He has a different set of rules for you and me than he does for his own kind. And nobody can say that's not true. That is true. And, speaking of that, as a side note, I just saw this program. I sent it to some of my friends. This sister, Indian sister, talking about from India, talking about the Americans. Now all the governments are starting to go back and starting to get in Americans' face. The Americans, with their complete audacity, their arrogance, they go to all the countries now and tell you about the human rights. Remember what happened about 3 or 4 months ago when they came to try to chastise China in a meeting on TV? He said, "What you got to talk about? You over slaughtering black people." I never forget that. I almost jumped out of my seat when I heard him say that. Now the countries are doing this. When they come to them talking about human rights, they say, "Whoa, you are a hypocrite. What are you doing to black people? You're slaughtering them. You've been slaughtering them for 40 years. How can you come here talk to me about human rights?" See, this is what, yes, and it's starting to happen. So anyway, our brother, who is starting to be wayward now, he begins to judge the Muslims by what? The way of the kuffar, judge, and way they kill black people, and what they do to Africans, and they begin to use their judgments against Muslims. Third, he makes a judgment, okay, against the Muslim from evil. Again, when the kuffar says, "Look, you know what? I hate Malcolm X," and we still have that. We have many, this Tubab, even in America, especially, they talk against Malcolm X, okay, Al-Hajj. They talk against him, and they always want to bring up when he was a youngster, when he was selling drugs and all that. They never want to talk about the man he became. They only talk about he was this, he was that, and they crucify him. This is the kind of stuff here that they do. We have Muslims who adopt that. They'll go back to some Muslims' past when he was a punk. At 20 years old, he was a gangster, and he shot up a place, or he robbed some people, or he did this and that, and so forth and so on. They go to use that against him. And they don't talk about how this new Muslim has now Muhammad, who's now 45 years old, he's cleaned up, he's married, he's got children, he goes to the masjid, he worships, he's not doing that anymore. So what they do, they use the Tubab ways of mean, and they go back to his history, say, "Yeah, you know, Muhammad, you're nothing, man. I know what you were when you were 20 years old. You were a gangster." This is what we're talking about here. You start to see these Muslims who do this type of thing here, they start looking at somebody's past and use that, and you know it's forbidden, because the Muslims, when you come to Islam, whatever is behind you has been erased. If you rob 10 banks, it's been erased. How do you have the audacity to come to take his Islam away from him and say, "Well, look, man, you were a gangster when you were 20 years old. 25 years ago, I knew you as a gangster." This is what they're doing. You know now that something's wrong with our dear brother when he does this. Fourth, he holds in his heart a new hatred now for the Muslim community, meaning you see him staying away. He see a group of Muslims here that he should gravitate to, he goes away from them. He goes around with the kuffar. And you start noticing, what happened to Yahya? I remember when we used to go over here, he would go over here and he'd go pray with the Muslims. He would go sit with the Muslims over here. Suddenly, he goes away from them. Now you know something's not right. Okay? You know something's not right. Now, here's the other part. 5. When he believes that the ways and means of the kuffar is actually better than that of the Muslims, meaning that even better than the Quran and the Sunnah. Now you know something wrong. When our brothers and sisters started listening to him, he's praising communism. He's praising the French law or the English law or the American law. And then when he gets down to the Sharia Islamiyah, he begins to call it names. He gets to talking about it. He said we should modernize it. He said we don't live in the 7th century anymore. We should go and now make it modern, and we should make it like the Christians. Now you know something's wrong with this our brother. So I gave you these 5. There are many more, but I wanted to give you the picture of something to look for. Our brothers who now want to go join the disbelievers against the Muslims, they have some characteristics like this. They have characteristics, and you start to see them, and you begin to talk to them, and you see how they've changed. And this is what we're meaning here. So my brothers and sisters, in closing today, I gave you the last of this, and we go on to the next one, which is 9, and nullifier number 9. And number 8 is a harsh one. I hope that you learned something from this, because it's very troubling that we would even have some nullifier like this. That why would Muslims even do this? But it's a nullifier because in every era we had the same problem, and it's a nullifier. We always seem to have Muslims go to join against other Muslims, and against the orders of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Again, we're not talking about the Muslim criminal. We're not talking about him. We're talking about the Muslim criminal who comes out here and he robs and steals, and you see him stealing cell phones from the sisters walking down the street, or you see them walk up behind the sister and he pulls her hijab, and for some reason he don't like that because he wants the woman to be naked, and so he goes down the street and he begins to pull the hijab off of many sisters. That's a different situation. You deal with him. You got to deal with him, and you deal with him in any way possible means to stop him. And if you're an old man, you can't beat up this 20-year-old kid. You know that he's much stronger than you. You're 80 years old. How do you stop him? If there's somebody to stand there, he just happened to be a two-bob policeman, you have no other choice, because he's defacing our sisters. He's over grabbing the sisters by the hijab, and he's removing the hijab, and so forth and so on like this. He's got to be stopped. That's different. We're not talking, that's a spontaneous thing. You're protecting the Ummah and you're protecting our sisters. We're talking about those who go to join knowingly, to get money, to get fame, get riches, get dunya. Those are what we're talking about. We're not talking about here where the old man sees all of a sudden these guys doing this, and there's a two-bob policeman, because he can't stop them. He's brutalizing our sisters. No, you do what you have to do to protect them. And you say, hey, policeman, look, there's this guy, look what he's doing. He see him pulling the hijab off the girls. We've seen this in Europe. They're doing some craziness. And some are even Muslims. They go after the sisters to pull off their hijab. I mean, it's crazy what's going on now. Even in America and in Europe, especially France, and I don't know, I forgot where I read. It's a prevalent thing now. They walk down the street and they see a woman with hijab. They run behind them and pull it off. For what? For what reason? And some of them are Muslims. This is what I'm talking about. So those are ones that we have to deal with. And you do whatever it takes to protect our sisters. Even if it means there's a two-bob right here, and he's a policeman. If he can go and stop this Muslim who claims to be Muslim, but he's a criminal doing this to sisters, you use that. There's no fault to you on that. You're not an apostate. You're not an apostate. That's a different situation altogether. So in a nutshell, my brothers and sisters, number 8 is a serious bab and a nullifier Islam. And I hope that you got something out of this, and I hope that you realize that you as a Muslim, that you should be very careful in what you do and how you do it, and that you learn and you don't let the outside forces, especially the devil, bring you to his ways and means. And remember, my brothers and sisters, the scholars talked heavily about this. And remember, helping the kuffar against the Muslims, he says, a very important issue today, and it's an act of apostasy. That is serious business against your religion. And let no one come to you and tell you there's no such thing as a Nawaqid al-Islam. There are books and they're in Arabic. I think they got some now in English. There is, and you can learn these 10 things. And I said over and over again, you Muslims, you should learn the 10. You should know them by heart, and you memorize them so they guard you and protect your families and protect your sons, so your sons don't fall prey to this stuff. Because if he's not being educated, he goes to school. The Muslims who are doing this, and we have that now, especially African Americans now, they're starting to be recruited a lot in colleges, and your son is a strong Muslim. And they begin to go say, look, man, you know what? Your dad's not giving you enough money. Hey, guess what's happening here? We got some agencies here, American agencies. They're paying good money now for us to go spy on our brothers in the masjid. So after we get through our classes, we go spy on the masjid over here. This is stuff that's going on now. So you have to be strong, and you have to educate your son and tell him this is wrong. But if you don't know the nawakits, the nullifiers, you may think there's nothing wrong because he's making money. Or you may say, maybe it's wrong, but you're not sure. It's a nawakit. And you should learn this for our future generations and for your sons and stuff like that. And our sisters to teach the children the nawakit al-Islam to 10. And so they can learn these things and avoid getting caught in these type of situations. And the next time we'll meet, inshallah ta'ala, subhanahu wa ta'ala grants this, we'll start to cover the 9th one, which is also a very sad epitaph that's happening. And this one is whoever believes that some people are exempt from abiding by the Sharia of Muhammad, alayhi salatu salam, and is exempt from the Sharia laws of Moses and all the prophets, so forth and so on. This is the 9th nullifier, the 9th one. And we'll be talking about this. And you can kind of imagine this talks about who the modern Muslim today, because the modern Muslim says that he's exempt basically from following our prophet, alayhi salatu salam. Okay, and his ways and means, because it's too conservative, or it's back in the 7th century. We're now living in the new age. Now we don't need to follow this anymore. We hear this now, and so he'll tell you the ways and means of our prophet, and the ways and means of subhanahu wa ta'ala don't have to be followed, and he can, and you can do what you want, and you convey that. Here's our prophet, the best of all human creations. He was the best person you can possibly have. He was a kind man. He gave his laws. He broke down what subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, okay, from us. And then you go and tell that you exempt from that you don't need to follow that. You know something's wrong with this man. Salawatu Rabbi Taslim Matihi Alay, and you say you can't follow him, this man, this beautiful man, his ways and means, and you say now that you are a modern Muslim, you can't follow that. This is what they're doing. That's why we have the 9th nullifier against these type of Muslims who say this. So my brothers and sisters, thank you for showing up. Abina, my dear sister, thank you. Amina, my dear Moroccan sister, you know, bless you, my dear sister, for showing up. And those who came in the chat and those who look this in the future, I hope that you got something out of this, because this is a lesson that it's hurtful in a lot of ways, and it's very painful a lot of ways as well. And I'm hoping that you did get something out of it, and that you learned something from this, and that subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps you away from this, and you ask him to bless you and to strengthen your Aqeedah, so that way you can avoid this, and also ask him to learn these nullifiers, these 10 nullifiers, and so you stay away from them, and then you teach them, and you ask him to protect you from this type of stuff like this. That's all you can do. And he guides the ones who he wills, and he lets others go to their way. So my brothers and sisters, thank you very much for showing up, and those in the chat, and those who will see this in the future. And I hope that you look at this and you learn something from this. And this is a very harsh nullifier of Islam. So I will leave you with the beautiful, beautiful words of Jinnah. Salamu alaikum, rahmatullahi barakatuh.